Aegon the Conqueror was able to conquer 7 kingdoms in all of Westeros, but the one thing that he may not have ever been able to conquer was the closet. What, you're telling me the guy who married 2 women, both of his sisters, wasn't actually into either of them? Well, why did he do that then? Why was he even married? I don't know, why are you asking me? Oh, the thing, yeah, I get it. So yeah, off the bat, I don't know, but there are weird things in surrounding Aegon the Conqueror, his relationships with his sisters, Visenya and Rhaenys, and his relationship with his very good friend, also purportedly half-brother, half-bastard brother, Orys Baratheon right here. Look at that tall, dark, and handsome man. So since it's Pride Month, let's go over the possible sexual orientations of Aegon the Conqueror and the justifications we can give for why he may have been either of those. So, the 2 big ones are, he is closeted and gay. Gay because he's into Orys Baratheon right here, so that's, kind of sad. And then the other possibility is that he is actually possibly ace. He's not into anyone. He isn't into Orys, he isn't into his sisters, he's just, kind of there and stuck in a society that wants him to be into things, that he's just like, no thank you. Like, I'm happy for y'all, but don't make me do it. Now, both of the explanations get a lot of their oomph, their support from the fact that Aegon was married to both of his sisters for a very long time before either of them got pregnant. So Aegon conquered Westeros when he was 27 years old, meaning that Visenya was 2 years older at 29, and that Rhaenys was 2 years younger at about 25. Now, to my knowledge, we don't have any concrete dates for any of the marriages, but I think we could speculate that, because it was kind of predestined that Aegon was going to marry Visenya, that would have been, decided young because that was the Valyrian custom that the Targaryens were still doing whenever there was, a brother and a sister to marry to each other. And so because of that, we can assume that, okay, if you're getting married and it's set from birth, you're probably going to be married on the young side. And Westeros, that could be, 16, 17, 18. So if we assume that Aegon the Conqueror was wed at 18 years old, which again, I think is a little older. I think it would make a little more sense if it was 16, 17. But say he's 18 when he gets married, that means that he's married to at least Visenya for 9-ish years before the conquest. Now, again, we don't know, how far apart these marriages took place, but say they were relatively close together just for, shits and giggles, whatever. It's a made a video, it's fine. But anyway, let's say that, he got married when he was 18. That would make Visenya 20, which, again, feels a little old. And then that would make Rhaenys 16, which would have been, not out of the question at the time. So yeah, let's say he got married to Visenya. A year later, he got married to Rhaenys. He's married to each of them for 9 and 8 years respectively by the time we get to the point of the conquest. And then after the conquest, they still don't have children until Rhaenys gives birth, I think, in the year 7 after conquest, which means that Rhaenys would have been married for a grand total of 7 plus. Whatever, let's just do it from the Visenya time. Say they got married 2 weeks apart. It's fine. Okay, so 9 years before the conquest, 7 years after the conquest, that's 16 years. That's a long time to be married to not just one woman, but 2 women and produce 1 offspring. And it's at the 16-year point. Weird. And then Visenya wouldn't have Maegor for another 5 years, meaning that she doesn't have him until the year 12, meaning that they would have been together for 21 years without her producing a baby. Now, I need to clarify at this point that there are a bunch of theories that come out of these specific plot points. One is that neither of Aegon's kids are actually his. One is that Rhaenys basically, she liked to hang out with a bunch of singers and artist types, and maybe one of them was actually the father, which would explain why her son, Aenys, was so weak and sickly when he was little. Meh. And then Visenya, who again was also rumored to be barren, may have used dark magic to make it so that she had a baby, and so maybe it's also not his, whatever. Yeah. the point is, like, this is such like a weird plot point that it invites a lot of speculation, which is why I think it's fair to invite the speculation that, like, maybe the sexual orientations of the people involved were not mingling together. 16 and 21 years is a very long time to be married to someone who you are, purportedly sleeping with, and not knock them up, like, or to only do it once. It's weird. Now, on a personal note, the theory that I am going to subscribe to a little bit on this is that I think that Aegon the Conqueror is just kind of a little ace. That's my personal thing. I will go over the Orys thing in just a second, but I think that, it's just like, it wasn't his thing. I think that, he probably married his sisters out of some, like, ooh, I'm putting together a prophecy type deal. We learn that in House of the Dragon, that, like, Aegon the Conqueror had Aegon's dream in that, and all that. And that is apparently a plot detail that was given to the show by George. So if we assume that it's the same in the book series, then I feel comfortable in saying that, like, the whole, like, oh, he married Visenya out of duty and Rhaenys out of love, I think that that could just be like Maester talk, because Maesters like to invent all these narratives, and then B, I could see him just doing it for the sake of the prophecy. Like, oh, I need to have, like, the dragon must have 3 heads. Cool, let me do that. But then the problem comes later when he has, established himself as the king, and part of that is, you need to have an heir. That is something that adds to the stability of the realm, that he probably gets, like, pushed and pushed and pushed until finally he has to, like, actually, try to knock one of these women up. And then I'm assuming, because Visenya maybe is the pushy type, that if Rhaenys gets a kid, Visenya also wants a kid. And so that's why even, like, 5 years after Rhaenys has been born, they're like, we should have a second heir, and I want it to be mine. Let's do this. So that is one possibility. The other one is that, again, he might have just been close to someone else. He could have been straight up gay, because I do know that, George loves his historical, like, comparisons that he likes to make, and I think it would make a lot of sense if his, like, big conqueror, Aegon the Conqueror, was very similar to, like, another famous conqueror, like Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was very gay! If you didn't know that, Pride Month, yay. And so this leads us to Orys Baratheon. Orys Baratheon is one of the few people to have ever been, like, close or, like, gotten to know Aegon in a, like, personal way. Because that's another thing that we don't often talk about, is not a lot is known about, like, Aegon personally. He was a very, like, quiet and introverted person. Like, he was very good on the battlefield and all that, but when he was done, he, like, goes back inside. And that could have something to do with, like, him being, like, a dragon dreamer, prophecy, all of that. It could have to do with his sexuality, whatever. It could have any number of reasons. He could just be an introvert, and that's fine. You're valid, I promise. But because of that, we don't have a lot of insight into him. But what we do know is the one person that he was very, very close to was Orys. Orys Baratheon seems to have been someone that he knew for the majority of his life, and he relied on and trusted implicitly. Now, we don't know a ton about Orys Baratheon. The big rumor, the big hint that a lot of people, like, want to claim is that he is the bastard son of Aegon and, his sister's father, Aerion Targaryen. So Aerion would have had a bastard in Orys, and then that would explain why, like, Orys was always around Aegon if he, like, kept the bastard close, and then they got very close in their own way. And I guess, like, if we're going there, we're going there. Targaryens, they do the sibling thing, so, like, if they're a gay Targaryen and there's another willing gay Targaryen adjacent person, maybe it's just in the genes. I don't know, man. What I do know is that whenever Aegon needed anything, he relied on Orys. He would send Orys out on his own missions during the conquest, with just, like, one of his sister wives and a dragon, but, like, Orys would be in charge. I think that says a lot about Aegon, as he's heading out on his own and, like, taking over the country. He knows that one of the people that he can rely on, besides, like, the 2 women who are his sisters who he's married to, who are helping him in this conquest, the one other person who gets lumped in with this group, like, on the same level, is Orys Baratheon. Maybe they were roommates. I don't know, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering if maybe, do I lean towards the Orys and Aegon pairing of it all? Because then I think that makes a very good contrast to the other gay pairing that we might have here, which is that a lot of people speculate that Visenya and Rhaenys were actually into each other, and that Aegon was there just to make it, look like a real marriage. Or, like, by hetero standards. Yeah, if you want me to talk about Rhaenys and Visenya next, please drop it in the comments. Y'all are cool. Have a great night. Goodbye. Happy Pride!